people that are really affected, yeah, I got friends that they don't function anymore because there's a piece of them that's broken, and I don't know how they're going to come back. But they're aware, they're away, they're doing what they can, and hopefully they can get the help they are. But we see this in our generation all the time, especially this generation of GWOT vets. We have become accustomed to using the military and the war as an excuse for bad behavior. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of the shitty things that I did, the things that I feel a lot of shame for, I did because I was immature and I was selfish. That's the bottom line. It wasn't because of the war. Did the war help? Did PTSD help? No. But was it the main cause? Absolutely not. Immaturity and selfishness. And if more people could take accountability, you need to take ownership of what you do, what you say, how you treat people, how you treat yourself. Take accountability and just try to be a better person tomorrow. That's a great thing, is the sun will come up tomorrow, and like all the shitty things you did today, you get to try again tomorrow. And the day after that, and the day after that, however long that road is, you should never stop trying to improve yourself. You should never stop trying to make up for, wrongs that you committed in your past. But you also can't beat yourself up for your entire life. At a certain point, there's a statute of limitations on whatever you did in the past. You cheated on an ex, let it go. It's 10 years down the road. Guess what? They done moved on. All right. You know what I'm saying? You used to be an alcoholic and you hurt a bunch of people. Well, you done apologize to everybody and you don't drink anymore. Hey, you're a better person. I'm sorry that stuff happened. It's shitty, and I'm sure you get sad when you think about it, but you cannot live your entire life based off of a couple bad decisions or a couple years of bad decisions. Unless you're a pedophile. Feet first into the wood chip. I'm saying no.
I think so. Man, you made there's so many good points there. I think I had a kid tell me in a class the other day, she was acting out of pocket or whatever. And I was like, yo, what's up, man? What's going on? You all right? You good? Like, you just keep getting up and, you interrupt the class. Like, what's the deal? And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I just ain't taking my medicine today, so I'm X, Y, and Z. And I said, and I'm thinking in my mind, I say, I brought this up in a conversation the other day. A lack of control cannot be acknowledged. So if you're telling me I'm acting this way because I didn't take my medicine, which is alluding to the idea that you're not in control of your actions because you didn't take your medicine. But the reality is, if you can acknowledge that your actions are out of pocket and that you're acting a certain way, then that means that you do have some semblance of control and you know exactly what's going on. You know what I'm saying? If you're telling me, oh, I can't control my anger, or I can't control this feeling, or I can't control that, or when people make me mad, I just act out and I say what I want to say and blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you're acknowledging the fact that you're doing this action, then you have some semblance of understanding of what you're doing, and therefore you can make the decision to stop. You can control it if you want to. A lack of control cannot be acknowledged. If you just black out, you have no control over that. And there are people who have rage like blackouts where they don't even remember what happened. You know what I'm saying? I've seen both of those sides.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you tell me, oh, I'm gonna lose it and I'm losing it, or I'm saying, you know what I mean, I'm acting like this, and I know I'm acting like this, but it's because of this. Well, now you getting into that excuse world. Now you get into, you're not, like you said, you're not taking accountability. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, going back to one of the comments that was just made, parents do have to walk what is the actually did she say? Then it comes to victim mentality. I act like this because the doctor says so. Now it's a thin line parents walk on. So parents are sitting there on the front line with their kids, right? So, there's a lot of pressure on parents to, 1, protect their children, 2, expose them to enough to let them grow and be adults, 3, correct bad behavior. So you have to use discipline, but not abuse.
Right.
And obviously we are in a society. We're in a society today where, you don't spank your kids with belts anymore.
You don't spank your kids anymore harder.
I mouthed off to my mom one time, and she busted my door down, and I tried to hide behind the door because I'm stupid, and she beat me with the door. You know, you just didn't do it. And guess who didn't mouth off to their mom for at least a few more years? I did. All right, because when I saw the hate in her eyes, all right,
the
I
fires
was
of
done.
Dante's
But my mother
Inferno
never
came out of the deepest circle.
But my mother, and I'm sure a lot of people who's watching, you know, their parents hit, like, my mother spanked me a lot. She hit me a lot. My mother never broke a bone. My mother never made me, you know, never made me feel like she was going to kill me. She never made me feel unsafe in my own home. You know what I'm saying? Because it was always, you know, you get punished, you talk about it, and then you move on. And then obviously you try not to get punished again because, you know, I don't want to get spankings with a thick leather belt. Okay. But the thing is, you know, parents are sitting there, they're walking these thin lines because the one thing that our parents didn't have to worry about is the influence of the internet and social media. Which is, I still break my neck when I hear a belt buckle jingle. I hear you. You know, the influence of social media and the internet and everything. The internet is amazing. Like, it's given us access to the entire history of the world when you can sort through what's real and what's not. It allows you to connect with people. You know, we're having a live show. I'm in Louisiana. You're in Florida, right? So we are able to have this live show together and talk, and all these people are probably in different parts of the country as well. So that's amazing, you know. But what's not amazing is when your kids are exposed to stuff that you don't have any control over, you know. So you might have someone, they might be watching a YouTube channel where this, you know, these older adults are teaching them, like, hey, you know, you don't have to listen to your parents. You know, your parents should never hit you. If they hit you, they don't love you. You know, so now you have all these outside influences that you just didn't have to worry about, you know, 20, 30 years ago. And now, you know, everybody has a cell phone. And if you have a cell phone, you have a computer. You know, if you have a computer, you can get on the internet. If you get on the internet, you have access to everything. And I think access to everything is very important, but it needs to be, the thing is I'm not for censorship. I don't want to censor anybody, whether I agree with them or I believe in them or not. I think anybody should be able to say whatever they want. But there needs to be some sort of checks and balances. And I think that's where it starts with the parents, is to guide their children on what they should be watching, you know, to instill values and this baseline morality in their kids. Monitor's another one. You know, as a parent, you should absolutely monitor what your children. I had a friend. I knew somebody that I think this was right when TikTok came out. Her son downloaded TikTok. She said no, took it off the iPad, and she said, if you do it again, I'm getting rid of the iPad. He downloaded it again. She found out, and she sold his iPad. I didn't think she'd go through with it, to be honest with you, and she did. You know, she told me later on that she cried. You know, she was really upset that she, you know, because it's her son. But you know, the fact is she was doing a good job by monitoring, and she gave an instruction. She said, if you do this is what will happen. And she executed, you know, and as bad as she felt, she stuck to it. And I think parents today, they feel bad when they see tears. They feel bad when whatever, you know, but are we conditioning our children to just cry when something, you know, are we helping them cope with loss and stress and being told no if we just give in and don't, you know, follow through on the punishment? I never got out of being grounded early. My mom told me if I didn't turn my TV off at a certain time, she would take it out of my room. And she did, and then and that was it. You don't get your fucking TV back; it's gone. You know, and if more parents did that, I think they would be a lot more successful. You know, and also not just shoving an iPad or shoving a phone in their kid's face when they don't want to deal with it. You know, also something that our parents and even our generation, you know, because some of us we're younger parents in the teens and early 20s that didn't have that ability. You know, they actually had to be parents. You couldn't just shove a TV show in your kid's face for 5 hours.
That is a huge thing right there. They actually had to be parents. But you know what, though, man? I'll be honest with you. Like, this generation coming up, as I work with them, let me tell you something. I can't even be mad at them because when I look at the adults in their lives, I'm like, well, no kidding. It's no reason you act the way you do. You know what I mean? I think I shared the story before, man. Yeah. I remember I'm in a program, and these two kids, they get into it, you know what I'm saying, whatever. That's what kids do. So I got to break up this fight. So I go over there, I go break the fight up. Now, mind you, the two characters in this fight, on one hand, you have the fourth grader, and on the other hand, you have the second grader. You know what I'm saying? You got the second grader and fourth grader, they get into a fight, however a second grader, fourth grader fight. You can just imagine that. And so, but I'll be honest with you, the second grader jumped off the bleachers and like Superman punched the kid in the head. Anyway, it's not funny, but it's funny. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, the second grader, he's like this big, he goes flying off the bleachers. Hey! And so I got to go over there. So I grab them both, I split them up. But anyway, so we waiting. So the one kid, his people came and got him. I'm waiting on the second grader's father. Tell me why I'm sitting there. Father pulls up. Jeez. Father pulls up. I hate to say it, but it's that stereotypical hood, Charger with the smoked out, smoke out the windows, the whole 9 yards, music blaring, all of that jazz, right? And so he gets out, got the stereotypical look or whatnot. He comes into the thing, and I'm like, okay, and then mind you, they look like twins. They're like a little body with twins. Kid walks in, dad walks in, I say, yo, you so-and-so's father. Yeah, you got in a fight today. I'm like, all right. Tell me why the father responds and says, yeah, that's right. Where that jit to hit my son, yeah. And I'm like, wait, you gonna fight the kid? Like, what are we doing here? Like, well, why are you like, what? And he's going on like, yeah, where that jit hit my son, da 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 da. I'm like, wait, sir. First of all, your son threw the first punch. Be real. And then all of a sudden, he shifts, looks at the son with this like, and I almost felt bad because I'm like, dang, what did I just set this kid up for by telling the truth? You know what I'm saying? Now the dad was like, oh, you lying to me now? All right, yeah, don't worry about it. I got you. Get the F in the car. And now I'm like, here we go. He's cussing. And, and the lady at the front desk, she knew him. She was like, hey, calm down. Can't be cussing up here. My bad. And then he asked me, all right, well, but his daddy coming or something? You gonna fight the dad too? What? But see, these are the type of behaviors that lead these kids down these paths of destruction, because the reality is they don't always listen to what you say. They watch what you do. They copy what they see. And then what happens is they will develop these uncontrolled emotions because they're watching their parents with uncontrolled emotions. And then they'll go do something wild. And then they'll go to some doctor, they'll get Baker acted, or they'll go put in a facility somewhere, a juvenile detention center. Then they get diagnosed with all these different mental health issues and anger management and the defiant disorder and all this kind of stuff. And then now, because they've thrown their life away and they don't have any purpose, they have no control of emotions, now they fall into this depression. They don't know how to deal with nothing. And so now they fall into this spiral of destruction because they have no care for themselves, no care for their whole human life. They have no care for anything. And then they turn around and now they add to the statistics. You know what I mean? It is a tangled web, but it's a cycle, man. And we have to address it early on. So.
You're right. Children will watch their parents and become their parents. Where's Majestic at? Children will watch their parents and become their parents.
Yeah.
I know her personally. It's good and it's bad, because if you have good parents, then you have good children. You have good people. You grow into good adults.
Yeah, opposition. I knew it was old something. Yeah, oppositional defiant disorder. There it is.
I should have brought my computer. Yeah. So when they watch their parents, right, or their parents are just conducting themselves in a bad manner, then absolutely, if they see this over and over and over, that's debatable, Majestic. That's very debatable. They watch them conduct themselves over and over. Like you're talking about this dad that shows up and he's losing his mind. He wants to fight the kid. He wants to fight the kid's parents. The kid's parents they're not even there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not even there. So you're gonna punish them. You're gonna start all this. And then you have this cycle of this kid's like, okay, so every time someone disrespects me or disrespects some of my family, I fight them. I use violence. Now, it's very weird doing what I do for a living and what I used to do for a living to sit here and tell people this, but like sometimes violence is not the answer, okay? It was the answer when we fought the Taliban It's
The
not the
second
answer
generation
when you're
and
dealing
other
with
adults.
other adults. It should not be it should not be your first line when it comes to, if the parents are wise, they will see themselves in the child and begin making changes themselves. 100%. It's good to have, it's definitely good to have people on the show that have children so you can, you know, guide us in our discussion. But we definitely use up a lot of time talking about mental health, which is good, which we're going to come back to. We definitely should have another show on it. And come back with some
Yeah.
more, like maybe some statistics and just stories and stuff like that. It's a big issue to cover in an hour. But we were talking about food earlier. I want to
Yeah,
come back
for
to you
sure.
because someone made me aware of this. Someone made me aware of this earlier. But apparently this is companies being funded by Mark Zuckerberg, by Facebook. They are testing on how to put vaccines in foods. All right, so they want to use I'm not even sure what kind of science that's called, bioscience, biological science, but they want to basically ingrain vaccines in our food, so that way it's easier to digest. It doesn't have to stay cold, and you can basically mass produce whatever you want in our food, which we've already seen for years and years and years. We talk about physical health a lot on the show, but what we don't really talk about is, if you go to other countries, like I've been traveling Europe a lot recently, and I can tell you that even if you go eat fast food in these foreign countries, it tastes better because a lot of the things that we allow in our food here are not allowed overseas. They tend to outlaw. One thing that they have on us is that they tend to outlaw, just shitty things that you put in foods. If you go and buy the same ketchup, if you get Heinz ketchup in our country and in their country, dude, everything tastes completely different. Had a kid with ODD, broke his parents' French door like bad, saw the video, blamed it on ODD and ADHD, flat out called him an asshole. Let's just say he was receptive. I'm proud of you, sir. So he was that was my old platoon commander, and then my XO for my we were in the same unit in the Marine Corps back in the day. In fact, I think he's the one who wrote up my paperwork for my NJP. So if you remember that, sir, you chime in and let me know. When you guys gave me 2 weeks of half pay or some shit like that. I don't know, but yeah, no, that's exactly it. But food, man, like the shit that they put in our food, is crazy what they're allowing nowadays. And what they're doing is they're making eating unhealthy food is so much cheaper than trying to eat healthier. Because even your healthy foods is, your stuff that's organic isn't organic. It's just, yes, sir, I did. I learned a lesson. I learned a lesson. I dummy quartered my MVGs everywhere I went. I swear I never lost another piece of serialized gear after that. So lesson learned. Thank you, sir, for the instruction. But the shit that they're putting in their food, and like to sit here and learn that you have a private business paying companies to learn how to put back. Now, what vaccines are we putting in foods? You know what I'm saying? We talked about vaccines before, and it's not like I'm anti-vaccine. I'm a healthcare worker. Like, I know that the polio vaccine worked because there's not polio running rampant around the world anymore. We know that the measles vaccines work because there's not measles running rampant all over the world anymore, except for like third world countries and stuff like that. But when we sit here and we're talking about these companies like Pfizer and Moderna and stuff like that, that pumped out this vaccine in under 8 months, and then they're going to sit here and talk about how they have all this science and all these numbers behind it, when every other vaccine in history has years of data, years and years of data, and now they just want to just put it in our food. The next step is just, Pfizer has a contract for lettuce in the United States. Pfizer has a contract for corn in the United States. You know what I'm saying? So now no matter what you do, you're going to get vaccinated.
Right.
We're going to put this in your body.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, that's why.
Not to mention, we have government funded and government produced food shortages, because we were talking about this earlier today too. And I think we've talked about this before. I think I brought to our attention a few.
Dogs
go ahead.
Doing something, you know what I mean?
All right. Lab rat. Hell yeah, we're lab rats. I was getting shots in the military that I don't even remember what they are anymore. You just line up in a line, and they're like, "You're getting the shot," and you're like, "Okay." We used to take a medicine called mefloquine. It was for malaria, and I took it for 3 deployments straight. And on my 4th deployment, I started having what do you call those? I was hallucinating while I was awake. So I just flat out stopped taking it because I was like, well, that's enough of that. That's not really healthy. So yeah, I definitely think that the government wants to use people as lab rats to test things, and I don't think it has anything to do with our health. I think it has a lot more to do with testing, ways of population control and, how to, keep a population weak. Also, in the conversation I was having today, I think it's very important to realize that the reason why things aren't worse than they could be is because we're an armed society. We're a heavily armed society. I'm not going to get all Second Amendment on you for the purposes of this show until Reese comes back. But I would venture to say that it's a lot harder to poison an entire society that will fight you. But yeah, so we were talking about the food processing plants earlier today, and I think the last time I brought it to your attention was several months ago, because I started reading into it in December of last year, and I think about that time in the year 2022, there was like 93 to like 120 separate incidences, and now those incidences have almost only gone up. That's why you're seeing shortages in eggs and shortages in foods. And I think we talked about there was people that were feeding their chickens a certain type of feed. They weren't laying eggs, and when they switched
they switched to
I think a local feeder that day, they started laying eggs that day. And the thing is people are like, oh, the government want to do that. I'm like, what? Bro, have you seen our government? Have you seen governments from
throughout history? Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, no, I bro, it boggles my mind that so like I think I mentioned this a while ago. People said, somebody asked me if I was a conspiracy theorist a while back, and I was like, listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a realist, right? And if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's very likely it's probably a duck. And I think that what we have to do is we can't get into this mindset to be so naive to think that evil does not exist. To get to this mindset to really believe that our government or your government or anybody else's government is not capable of doing some things that are less than favorable. Like, if you look at the whole grand scheme of things, do I think that there are elites that exist that have a whole lot of money, influence, and power that are using that influence and using organizations like food companies and pharmaceuticals and government and media to manipulate the masses for the purpose of their own personal agendas and profits and control? Do I think that exists? Absolutely. We know it exists because there's facts. We have paperwork. We got the receipts on this stuff. You know what I mean? And like, I think at this point, it's not about necessarily being conspiracy theorists. It's about opening your eyes to the truth that's right in front of you. It's like looking at the reality. It's like, I'm not trying to scare you into like, oh my gosh, the secret reptilians. And no, I'm just saying, like, look at the fact that we have, 20, like the other day, an explosion that blew up like 1,000 cows or something crazy, I saw the other day. Or you have the bunch of food plants that got arsoned. We're not talking about, like, when you look at the things like the train wrecks, and you got the doggone Palestine train wreck that they messed around, and the people who lived in the doggone city and town were in a Netflix show about a train wreck in the town. Like when you look at stuff like that, it's like at this point, you don't put it like this. At this point, if you don't see or think something's wrong, then you're choosing not to. That's the reality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Regardless of what side you
100%.
stand on, whether it's left, right, conservative, liberal, independent, whatever you believe in, you know what I'm saying? If you don't look at society and look at the government and look at the world, and you don't think, something's not quite right about all of this, something don't quite add up here. You know what I'm saying? If you think, well, there's no way the government would do that, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? They used to experiment. They still experiment, but they used to experiment on people. Like back in the day, they used to use military units. They used us to experiment with all kinds of stuff. They used to. Come on, man. Like, what are we talking about? Like it kind of, to be honest with you, it grinds my gears just a little when I have conversations with people and they have absolute 100% total trust in the government and in their political parties and in their, organizations or whatever the case is, and you really don't think that these people could potentially use you. Like, you don't think that at all? Like, not once? Do you ever think that they would never poison the food? They would never, what? Flint, Michigan been having dirty poison water for 10 years, for 20 years. Like, what are we talking about? Like, we still fix the water. Like, you don't think that it's not interesting how when you put two and two together, when you look at the things going on globally, you look at the things going on locally, you don't think it's interesting that cryptocurrency is growing and whatnot, but yet the banks that support cryptocurrency crash, and the government all of a sudden shows up and seizes those banks and says, we as the Federal Reserve will take control over this. And matter of fact, businesses, we want to protect the people from all the greedy CEOs. So we, as the government, will take care of you by taking control of all the financial transactions, put it under the Federal Reserve, under FedNow. The Federal Reserve will handle all your payments. The Federal Reserve will handle all of your financial transactions. Don't worry, we got you. And matter of fact, we're going to do one currency that we'll give you 1-for-1 exchange for your currency, so you're going to use our currency. Like,
well, I mean, it's true. It's true what they used to say. Those who provide the cure often provide the plague. So if you create emergencies and you create shortages, and then all of a sudden the government looks like, well, hey, we got you. Oh, we're short on beef.
Right.
We'll get you some beef, our beef. You're short on money. Don't worry. We got money. We're going to send you some of your own money back from the taxes that you pay us, in little amounts that aren't even enough to live on. What was the biggest one they sent out was like $1,400 during COVID, right? That wouldn't even, dude, I don't even live in the United States right now, technically. And that wouldn't have covered my bills between my rent, my insurance, and my cell phone and stuff like that. So they expected, they wanted to create a situation because, man, so much flowing through me right now. But anybody who believes that the government has all your best interests in mind, you're an idiot. Like, I'm gonna say it right here, you're an idiot. They don't care about you. You're a tax cow. That's it. They're there to collect money from you. So they don't need you healthy. They don't even need you working. They just need you somewhere where you can make money and they can take money, or they can take money from somewhere else because of you.
They need you subservient. I mean, when you look at my bad, we got so
Yeah. What's that? So just going back to these private companies. So Mark Zuckerberg runs Facebook, runs Instagram, Instagram, which we're using. So thank you, Mark. You're still an asshole. Using these private companies, and like, why is he interested in putting vaccines in foods? Bill Gates buys up a lot of farmland, and he was very instrumental in the vaccines, in the COVID-19 vaccines. When we say that the world is run by the rich, it's not run by, it's not run by, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg works for somebody. It's not run by Bill Gates. Bill Gates works for somebody. George Soros, who is, you hear that name dropped a lot. Soros and Rockefeller, they work for people. That's the scary part, is that there is money that is so old that they don't even have to count it anymore. They don't count it in billions and trillions and stuff like that. They have money because it goes back so damn far. Living in the South, we joke about it now, about plantation money, but there's still a lot of families around here that are still rich off of plantations, right? It's the same thing, but on a larger scale all around the world. You go back to medieval Europe, that's where all these families started. They were all associated with a church or with a monarchy, and they all have money. And that's why you have these groups that meet every year for philanthropy, to talk about world events and stuff like that. That's not what's going on. They're talking about what the next step is and how we bring this to a one world union where we can tax everybody. Your average citizen. So me and you would be basically, we just go to work, we provide, and then we die. Like, that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. And yeah, and anybody who thinks it's only, the word conspiracy theory wasn't even used until like the 1950s and 60s.
Right.
And it was our government that
people who were telling the truth. Yeah.
Because the best Private companies are doing more government projects because they don't have to release no information to the public. 100%. They wanted to seal the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine information for 75 years. Why? If you didn't do anything wrong, just release it. Let us know what's going. Let us know what you pumped into our bodies. You know. Also, I haven't checked up on it to see how true it was, but I was reading something that the same person sent to me that's saying that the vaccines are in very short time are no longer going to be allowed in the United States.
Right.
I don't know how true that is. It's something I have to check on. So I'm going to put that on the I'll get back to you on it column. But if that's true, then that means they know that they were doing wrong. They knew that they had a faulty product. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know somebody that wasn't affected by the COVID-19 vaccine. Nobody died. None of our guys died, but we lost guys. I'm talking about really healthy guys. All of a sudden had heart problems, high blood pressure. You know, they weren't feeling well. We had 2 or 3 guys with blood clots. This is all in the contract that I work overseas, man. And you're just going to sit here and tell me that, like, that stuff doesn't.
Yeah,
I saw it.